Hi there, Tony from CrewAI. On the previous video, we covered how to get started with CrewAI open source framework. So we covered how to install UV, how to install CrewAI, and how to set up your agents and tasks and tools using the YAML format. And finally, we ran our crew to the point where we got outputs from it. So on this video, we're going to go over how to actually deploy that crew into our CrewAI Enterprise platform. Before we deploy our crew to CrewAI Enterprise, the first thing we need to do is once we've built our crew locally, we want to push that to GitHub. So that way it's there in a repository and it's easy to load it up from there and deploy to CrewAI Enterprise platform. So if you haven't done that already, please go ahead and do that. We already did that for the previous project. If you don't have one already, go to the repo, which is linked in the video description below, clone it, and then from there, you're able to follow the commands here on the terminal. So let's get started. Now that you have the crew code in GitHub and also you have a local version of it, now the next step for you is open up the one that you have locally, so long as it matches with what you have on GitHub. Go ahead and type in CrewAI -- help on your command line interface. If you type that in and enter, it should show you all the commands that you could use with CrewAI. The ones that we're interested in here, since we're going to be accessing our enterprise platform, is the login, which allows you to log into CrewAI Enterprise platform. Or if you don't have a login already, you can do sign up and it will also trigger from here to help you sign up. So if you don't have one already, for example, you would just type in CrewAI sign up and enter, and it should spin up a link for you and open up this side over here. You'll see on my tab here is opened and asked me to log in. It's already passed in the code that it will give you there, which will be unique each time. Just hit confirm if you don't have an account already, and then log in. For me, I already have an account, so it's easy. I'm just going to pick the one I have. But if you don't have one, just go ahead and create one. And you can see here, it tells me that, welcome, I'm already in there. So that's good. And the next step, what we could do as well is check to see if we have any deployments. You shouldn't have any deployments if you're creating this for the first time. But to deploy a crew to CrewAI Enterprise, you just type in CrewAI deploy, and then we could type in the help command to see what other commands we have access to deploy crews. So you can see here you have CrewAI deploy create will create a crew to deploy, and then list will list all the deployments that you have within CrewAI Enterprise, and then logs will just show you the logs of your deployments as well. And then push is to push the crew if you've had any changes. You want to push it to kind of get the new version into your enterprise deployed platform. Remove, of course, that just removes the deployment, and then the status. I guess the status of a deployment to see if it's okay or if it's ready to go. So what we want to use here for us is let's use the create. So let's do CrewAI deploy create. And if we enter that, it should create this crew that we have locally. It'll create a deployment of it. So creating deployment. And there you can see it's showing out. Don't worry, I'm going to revoke these API keys before I send it over to you, get this tutorial out there. But what it does is it's just telling me here, it was going to use those environment variables that I've already saved locally with this deployment. So it's going to deploy it with it into production. So you can see here, deployment created successfully. And this is the deployment that's created, and we are good to go. So the next step we could do is let's just check the status of it because we just deployed. So CrewAI deploy status. And if you run that, it will tell you what's happening with that deployment that we just deployed. So it's saying here it's building images for the crew at the moment. So it's in the process. It takes about 10 minutes. Should be much shorter in the near future, but that's how long it takes at the moment to kind of get that deployed and synced up. And we can also do logs. So we could do CrewAI logs. So CrewAI deploy and logs. So we could see what logs the deployment logs look like. So you can see here CrewAI deploy logs, and you can see here it's already queued up. So it's building the image for the crew at the moment. It's done all these steps already. So right now we're at the stage where it's creating the image for the crew there. So that is pretty good. What we could do as well is just go to the platform itself. So if you go to app.crewai.com and enter, you should see your deployment happening there in real time. And if we come here, for me, you could see that this is already loading. So this is the deployment we just deployed, and you can see it's in the progress. So first deployment could take as long as 10 minutes. So it's going to take a while to kind of deploy that. But in the meantime, while that is going, I'll cut back to when it's done so we can actually test it. And now our crew is successfully deployed on CrewAI Enterprise platform. So let's take a look at it. So if you click here on the crew itself, you'll be able to see some few metrics here. So you'll see there's a status page, and this just shows you the crew is online already and what time it deployed, and also showing you the URL, which will be your endpoint. So, and there's also a bearer token with it. So you can do more things with this. Think of it as an API, being able to call the crew from some other place, maybe your UI or something as you build on top of that. So that's what it gives you there, which is important. And then there's also UUID to just kind of show the number of this crew or the identifier for this crew. And then the CrewAI instance type, which is a crew. If it's a flow, it'll be a flow, but in this case, a crew. And then you have a CrewAI version 0.1 108. So that's the latest version that we have there. And on here as well, you have some test endpoints. So you have input. So if you run this, it will show you what inputs you would need to pass it to this crew for it to run, which is the topic and the current year. So which is what we did with the local one. So we were able to pass in the topic that you wanted to go do research on, and then the year also that you wanted to consider for the research as well. And then you have kickoff. So if you have, for example, here you could change this into whatever value you wanted to do, and then pass the year there, and then you can just kind of send the request straight from here as well, because these are just endpoints, right? A good way to test them. And then once you send the request, you'll get an ID, a kickoff ID, which you can then put it in here and actually send the request. It will just show you the status of that crew. Is it complete? Is it still running? Etc. So let's go look at some other stuff. So if you come to the run, it just shows you the overview of your crew. So you see the crew inputs here, and you could zoom in a bit more, which is pretty cool. You see crew inputs. This is where you put your inputs. You can actually put your inputs directly there, and then you can run the crew. So there's so many ways to run the crew. And then here you also see that you have the topic, and you can read through it. You have sequential and just task, and then there's agent there as well that's connected to that. If you look at this, so this is the senior data researcher, and then this is the reporting one. You can see the task for it and also the agent for it, which is pretty good. Also the LLM, and then the output. So once you finish running, you will see the output there as well. So that's pretty neat. So you can run it from there. And then there's also execution. So this is where you just find metrics, so tasks and all these other scheduling. You can schedule tasks as well. You can test. So many features here to go through. But in this case, I just wanted to show you how to get your crew deployed to the platform and actually trigger it. A pretty good spot for you to trigger it is our management UI. So if you come to the crew itself here, and then you click the manage button, which is going to load up here in a second. If you click this manage button, it will take you to the execution, the management UI, which looks like a Kanban board. Is a wait execution running and then complete. So let's go ahead and trigger the crew from here. Once it starts running, it's going to move to the running section. And then finally, it's going to go to the complete section when it's finished. So there you go. It's on the running now. So if you click on it while it's still even running, you could see the two tasks that are pending. You can see the output that it generated. This is the output from the research that it did. So it's now over here. It's complete. So if you click on it again, you'll be able to see some extra stuff here. And then the year, you see the completion tokens and all this other interesting stuff. So this is not the observability section, but it's more like a quick preview into what the agent did. If you want to see more details, you can come to traces here, and you can actually pick the crew that you deployed, click on that, and you'll be able to see all the interesting metrics now here. So you'll see the tokens that it took. Also, first of all, the topic, when you got it deployed, the current year for the inputs basically to the agent, and then you get the total tokens that the agent consumed, and then there's the prompt tokens, and there's the completion tokens, the request that the tool did to the internet there, for example, and then you have the execution time and the total token usage cost, the cost there in cents. And then same thing here, total prompt cost as well, and then completion token cost. So these are interesting numbers that most enterprises are really excited or interested to learn about, or even as an individual developer in this case. And also here, you just get the tasks, the two tasks. It also gives you the how long it took to execute each of the tasks. So it took 7 seconds to gather the research, and then 13 seconds to run the report or to generate report. And then you also have the agents, and you have the name of the agent and then the models that were used for the agent. Now, if you want to go into a bit more detail with the traces, this is the observability section here. If you click on the first agent, which is the senior data researcher agent, you can see how long it took it. Of course, it was the 7 seconds, and it shows you the created time and all that information. Same thing here, it just shows you the tasks, the description, the expected output from it. And then you see here, which is the research that it did. If you come to the completed, which is a reporting analyst, you will see what it did there, what LLM it used, how much time it took it. In this case, we're not going to have any tool traces because it didn't use any tool. It just consumed that data and generated a report, which that is pretty cool. And you can see the final report here as well, and you can copy it and put it somewhere else. So that's kind of a general overview of what you could do in the UI at the moment. You can also look at usage, which is pretty good. You can see the usage, what you've executed so far. If you have a team, there's also tools. You can build your own tools and deploy them here, with a repository of published tools that you can actually hook it up to your agents. Another interesting piece that will cover in another video is you're able to build your agent using just the chat. So you could just ask it to build a crew to track the price of eggs in the USA. And you will talk back and forth with the agent under the hood here, and it will help you build out your crew essentially. So here is kind of what it's thinking. Yeah, to create an automation, it already kind of comes up with a few things like inputs for like region and the website. You want it to get it daily, websites that you want it to go get the data from as well. And then you have tools that it's suggesting there, dev tool, scrape, CSV search, and all that interesting stuff. So you could just tell it, yes, sounds good, build, and it's going to go ahead and build it for you. So a lot of good spot to start. One thing that I'm seeing a lot of people do, and I do sometimes as well, is I would come here, build a crew here, because what it's going to do is once you get to the point where you like it, for example, you just tell it generate the crew. It's going to build out the crew with all the components that it's talked about here and add the tools. And you can actually edit it, as you can see here. So it's already generated the crew plan here, which is you have the agents. You generated 3 agents: resource searcher, data scraper, data analyst. And then you add the tools, and you can actually modify. You can add whatever tool you want. So if you already deployed your tool here, for example, you'd be able to use it. And these are some of the tools that we provide out of the box that you could use, which is pretty cool. So many of them are there. And you can also edit the prompts themselves. So the backstory, the goal, you can edit the names, everything in here. You can edit them. Same thing with tasks. You can edit all this stuff as well. If you like them, you generate the crew, which might take up to 30 seconds in this case. But what it does, it creates a file that you can actually, and here it is. So it's going to create this real nice UI that you can kind of play around with and see what it's going to get executed. And if you want, you can deploy the crew, and it's going to get deployed directly to the platform, and you can start using it. Or you can download the code and fine tune it even more and actually deploy it back the way we just did. There's also LLM connections, the LLMs that you want to have, and also add the environment variables. For example, your API keys for most of the providers that you use a lot. And this is any API key that you want to use, for example. So a lot of things to cover there. But those are just kind of like the quick, easy way to get you started with deploying your crews to CrewAI Enterprise and what you can actually see in there as well. We'll be adding more features in there pretty soon. And that concludes this video. See you on the next one.